Hi everyone, welcome back to Wrestling Fun with Father and Son. I'm Father Matt and this is Son,
Sky.
and this is our AEW's Explosive Elite Review. Yep, AEW 3rd of the 5th, 2020. Just a quick side note, a little bit of news that's outside of AEW, quick WWE bit of news. Last night I think I was at NXT, Drake Maverick got re-signed to WWE basically. Whether or not this was a work all along and this is a storyline, or just because they genuinely saw his passion about the business, we don't know. They're probably the only ones who kind of really only know that. But anyway, he's re-signed now. So yeah, so that's also Kurt Angle got re-signed, or he got furloughed, or whatever it was. He's still in the company by the look of it anyway. Anyway, it's not WWE, this is AEW. Started off with Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc versus Kenny Omega and who? Hangman Adam Page for the TNT Championship. Obviously last week they beat who was it? Who did they beat?
SCU.
SCU. Number one contenderships. This was actually the match. They had Penelope Ford, who was a little bit of a she was a little bit of a player in this. She did interfere a little bit like she normally does, only to get ejected by the ref. And then in the end, it was Kenny Omega and Adam Page got the win. So no real movement. At Fyter Fest, it will be Kenny Omega and Adam Page versus the Best Friends. We found out during the show that Fyter Fest is now going to be like a week-long event where it's going to be like 2 nights, the 1st of July, which is a Wednesday, and the 8th of July, again, the following Wednesday. So it's going to be like a two-night thing, whereas normally it was like a Saturday pay-per-view. So they've changed it a little bit. FTR were in the crowd watching on. Obviously, they made their debut last week. They were looking on, watching the match. Obviously, get some pointers. So, you know that there was an interview as well with FTR later on, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Next, it was Brian Cage with Tazz versus another jobber, Shawn Dean. Very quick squash match. Tazz then got on the mic, did another promo about Moxley and about last week and him being a commentary and laughing at them and all this and the other. Only for Moxley then to come out and say basically that he was happy about this because he wants to go to war. Obviously, the Moxley character is this sort of, you know, he likes these sort of hard-hitting matches. This is going to be a hard-hitting match, especially with somebody like Brian Cage, who's quite, you know, built like him. Next, Colt Cabana versus Chris Jericho. Last week with the Mike Tyson angle, Jericho was backstage, bumped into Colt Cabana, had a little bit of a sort of altercation, and that's where this match got set up. Jericho had Hager and Sammy Guevara coming out with him. Sammy did a very bad rendition of Judas. There was some interference from Jake Hager, as always, they sort of do. Jericho did get the win in the end. They did a promo about Mike Tyson calling out the baddest man on the planet, making a challenge. It looks like they're going to be heading for some type of deal down the line. He did call out the baddest man on the planet. He got who?
Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy. Obviously, they had a bit of altercation as well over the last couple of weeks. He came out. They sort of he put Jericho's hands in his like sort of belt on his trunks. He did the same. Jake Hager went attack him. He then sort of avoided Jericho's attacks, rolled out the ring, and then the Inner Circle descended to the ring. Orange Cassidy went into the crowd with the Best Friends, and that they sort of walked off, and that was kind of it. So you can see they're sort of hinting that there's going to be something there later on between the Inner Circle and the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. We'll have to see. There was a Britt Baker montage, like a Rocky montage, where she was sort of rehabbing. That was quite effective little thing. Big Swirl versus Nyla Rose next. Not really much to this, to be honest. I knew Nyla Rose would win. That's exactly what happened. They did an interview with Big Swirl saying you've been out for a couple of months now. How does it feel to get back? Only for them, Britt Baker to sort of them to have an altercation. Britt Baker was sitting on the back of a sort of a small pickup truck. They had a bit of altercation where she sort of drove it backwards and then forward, and it was kind of altercation. So you can see that they're heading as well for something in the future when Britt Baker's cleared to wrestle. So we'll have to see. Then we had that FTR interview, like I said earlier on, where they said, what does FTR stand for? Now officially it stands for the Revolution. Obviously going on about the Wrestling Revolution. They kept talking about the different tag teams they had to work with. And Tony Schiavone, who was doing the interview, asked, why didn't you attack the Young Bucks? they said, well, we want them to be 100% so we can find out who the better wrestler is, which is a bit obvious, really. It's a bit, you know, obviously there is this question about, are they a really good tag team, formerly the Revival, are they a good tag team or not? We'll find out now. The Young Bucks are a good tag team. They are very high flying. We'll have to see how them two. I'm looking forward to the match, and we'll see what happens. At the end, the Butcher and the Blade interrupted the interview. They got basically held back, and there was no kind of. They didn't get their hands on them. Only for FTR to throw some water at them, and then they sort of made up a match, basically saying we'll see you next week. So they will debut in ring next week, which is quite cool. And then we had the main event: Jungle Boy versus Cody Rhodes, who had double A on Anderson for the TNT Championship. Jungle Boy won the Battle Royal last week. Cody said there's going to be an open challenge now. There was a little preview. They said Mark Quinn was going to face next week, and then on the commentary they said Ray Phoenix, so they changed that. I don't know if that's right or wrong or whatever. But anyway, this was a really good match. Didn't go very long. It was only about a 10-minute match. There was a bit of blood. Cody got blood, and there was a table used as well with a nice high spot. But this was a quite solid match. And in the end, who won?
Cody.
Yep, Cody Rhodes retained. And that was the end of AEW's Dynamite this week. Again, solid show, very good, sort of furthering along a lot of stuff. That's what I like about AEW. They do further along some stories, and they sort of sow some seeds as well, like with the FTR and the Best Friends and Inner Circle. There's sort of some seeds sown for the future there, which I really, really quite like. Again, I quite liked it this week. Like I say, there's nothing really coming up. So we'll just say, if you like the video, please like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for the AEW's Explosive Elite review. Yeah, so I think I'll say goodbye and say goodbye, Kai.
Yep. Bye.
Short and sweet. Bye-bye.